Second.
On the question? All in favor?
Aye.
Correspondence, received something from the Department of Homeland Security, United States Coast Guard. Board of Island Managers, dear grantor, we have enclosed supplemental agreement number 35 to lease number ETCG 84-47-L-5AP350, the Landreth Range rear light, which renews our agreement for the period 01 October 2014 to 30 September 2015. Your signature is not required. However, you are required to notify us if you no longer own this property. If you have any questions, please contact Ms. Michelle Frieden, United States Coast Guard. As far as this is concerned,
That's the blinking light that they send us $100 a year.
yeah, and so this is the second supplemental agreement, copy thereof. Pursuant to the authority cited above, the government does hereby renew, extend, and adopt in all conditions thereof for the period 1st of October 2014 to September 30th, 2015. The government's obligation hereunder is contingent upon the availability of appropriated funds from which payment for the contract purposes can be made. No legal liability on the part of the government. Payment of any money shall arise unless and until funds are made available to the contracting officer for this procurement. You will be notified immediately if funds do not become available for this. The government shall pay consideration of $100 annually in arrears. Do we know, are they in arrears or?
Yes, it's current. The CCD is still a little low fuel.
Yeah, that was actually.
Right now, they just tell you that you really don't have to sign it, you send a check and they're just renewing it.
Yeah.
Whether you like it or, we tried to get more money out of them once and they pretty much said that.
Yeah, wonder how many thousands of them there are. Let the record reflect that Manager Worth is off the train and coming forward.
It's 7:15.
So,
We should probably be getting the check in the mail
great.
within the next few weeks, I would imagine, for
Thank you. Okay. Public portion.
no other correspondence, that was it, no, sir, that's good, no bills.
So far, so good. Please state your name and address for the record. Okay, 5 minutes.
Red light on, Mike.
Okay, that's it. Sorry about that. Michael Zalot, 506 Locust Avenue, Burlington, New Jersey. I'm going to resubmit some open requests that I sent in 3 months ago. Got no real response. I got a partial response. If Jamie would be so kind as to take that up for me, please. Okay, I'd like to know, I also have a question about the audit. 4 meetings ago, I suggested that since we had four different treasurers within the last few elections, that an audit be done. I think Mr. Sunstein was assigned to see if he could find some way to do that. I would like to know if anything has been achieved on that.
Murray said the last meeting that he was not able to find any evidence that the state would do an audit for free. He made some phone calls, and he couldn't find anybody who said they would do an audit for us for free.
Okay, might I suggest RSVP? That's the senior citizens that are volunteers. I can't imagine the board having more than 30 checks during a 1 year period, so it wouldn't be overwhelming. Is there any possibility to get an independent audit there? And this would cost the board no money.
We'll look into it. I do know that this CPA that's working on the 501c3 right now has to justify to the IRS the balancing of books On the government records request form, can I ask, did you answer to the vagueness of the last request, or are these the same requests?
These are the same requests. I thought I addressed it.
I did elucidate through that letter to you regarding that they're non-specific and need to be edited and or updated. There's quite a few things there, and so you might want to review and revise in the interim, because I don't give you the same answer twice.
Okay. I would hope you would not give me the same answer twice.
Well, I mean, I did give you a letter regarding it some time ago, and so this is a bit redundant.
It's not redundant if I didn't get an answer for the things that I
Well,
asked.
actually, you did get an answer, and it was.
Okay, no problem.
I don't have my response to your, otherwise I'd read it for the record.
Okay, for the record or whatever, 7 days, if I don't have a response, I need them on file. I've given you 3 months. I've tried to be cooperative with this.
I have a question for you, Mike.
Sure.
One of the requests is proof of residency.
Yes.
For candidates, and has any other board member ever had to prove residency?
Absolutely. Anybody that files in New Jersey has to prove that they have a residency.
That they do that when they file, correct?
But if you don't file and you run for a write-in, there is no proof of where you live.
Okay, because I was a write-in the first year I was on the board, and I was not required to provide any proof of residency.
Actually, I can address that.
Yeah, good.
When I was treasurer and I had to do the election, part of the process is you check the people who filed for the election to make sure they're voting members, but that's also something that could go back and be checked as well, even for a write-in. But the fact that the city gave them, the city swore them in, the city makes sure when they go down for their swearing that they're on their register. I don't know if you recall when you went down to get sworn in, but Cindy Carvaro or whoever would have done it would have made sure you were a resident of the city. They would have checked the books. As far as the money that candidates have spent, the board does not have a record of that. The candidates are not required to turn that into us, therefore we don't have a record of it. The same with the emails between board members regarding the election. If they're emailing each other, the board can't force them to turn those emails over if it's between two people. If it's not addressing board business and the entire board isn't copied, the board doesn't have records of that. And as far as board emails, anyway, I've said this many times, none of the board members want to turn in their emails into our records, which is a big reason why I don't email anymore. We have 0 emails in our records. In our records book, there is 0 copies of emails. So we can't give you something we don't have. I was secretary at the time of the election, and I can tell you if there was email sent between board members, I was not copied on a single one, and there's not a single one in our records. We cannot give you something we don't have. And as far as the candidates go, it's the same thing. We can't force them to provide the board with what they spent their money on. It's not board records, it's candidate
Wait a
records.
minute, isn't there a form that we have to turn into the county?
If they're a write-in,
And if you
they're a
spend
write-in-
under a certain amount of money, oh, that's true.
If there is a
Right.
write-in, that's up to the state to look into that, not us. Because
Okay.
even when it's not a write-in candidate, when it's a normal candidate, when I was treasurer, no one was required to turn in their expenses to me. That's something that's reported to the state.
the state.
And it's
And
only
it's only-
required if you spend over a certain amount of money.
Yes, sir, and I know it's like hundreds of dollars or something.
I think it's
over-
500.
I think it's
could be
over
mistaken,
500.
it's been a few years.
Because I sent one of, but there's another form that you fill out, if you haven't spent over 500, where
But
you,
whether you're a write-in or not, that's something that gets sent to the state, that's not something that gets sent to the board.
Exactly.
Because, I mean, you can even look through the election book, the book when I was treasurer and secretary. Those are not records that I ever asked for from anybody, because it's not something required for the board.
Thank you.
Mike, unless you have something else, I did find a response to you.
I do have a copy of that, thank you.
All right. I don't know if I can honor this twice since I answered it, but if you'd like to brush it up as far as the comments here, that'd be great. I'm just looking, this request is far too broad and lacks specificity. The request implied the board spent money on campaign activities for newly elected members. The board didn't pay that such monies for activities. The activities concerning Fidelis, I had some questions on that.
There were no activities, there were no financial.
And there's, well, it's pretty specific. You can read it again. Everybody's seen it before.
The board never had anything to do with it.
I can say I recall that coming up when I was secretary, and I combed through the records books to see if there was any billing specific to Fidelis. I could not find a single thing in the records. If it's out there, it's not in our records.
The board did not have any business transaction.
I understand what you're saying, but what I'm saying is if there was,
Yeah.
even if there was, or if someone thinks there is no record of it in any of the invoices from the attorney or anywhere else in the paperwork. And I was secretary for over 3 years. And I was also treasurer for one of those years. And I believe I was actually treasurer the year that Fidelis supposedly came around, and there's nothing in our board records. Yes. In fact, I turned over the blue book, Scott. That's the records from 2011 on. I mean, you're more than welcome to go back and look. Everything's organized in sections. I couldn't find a single thing.
If I may, there is a 7-page document for Ron Eustamin's addressed to the Board of Vinyl Managers concerning Fidelis. It
I
was produced.
understand what you're saying, and if that's true,
Yes.
fine, but this board does not have a copy of it. Perhaps.
I will
when-
provide you with
I'm
one.
not done. Perhaps whoever was president at the time kept it for themselves because it's not in our records. And you have to be reasonable. This board cannot give you what it doesn't possess. And if somebody chose to keep that, and I'm not accusing anybody of that, but if they chose to keep it, there's nothing we can do. We can't produce a record that we don't have. And I've had you over request this before. I've looked myself. I kept impeccable records for 3 years. You can look through them. It doesn't exist in our records. And I don't know where you expect us to get something from when it's not there. It's just not there. If somebody kept it that was president at the time, or it was mailed to them or whatever,
I'll look and see if I have anything.
like I said, I'm not pointing fingers, but I do
No,
know
I know.
when Jim was
I'll take a
president, a
look.
lot of correspondence and things did not get passed on to me, and I always requested copies. It could have been that it just got lost, I don't know, but I do know that we no longer have it, whatever it is.
I have a box that Jim gave me
I've never laid eyes on
that
it.
goes all the way back to, stuff from Scattergood. I'm gonna get that box out, Scott, and get it to you.
Believe me, I'd love to read this letter myself, I heard about it a million times.
Is it a bill?
I wanna see it.
Is it a, there's
But
a
I don't
bill?
have a
Do you-
copy of it.
Do you have a copy of a bill that we
I-
paid our solicitor?
No, I don't have a copy of the bill, that's what I was requesting. It's a 7-page paper. No lawyer's gonna do that for free. It had to be there, and when I asked Mr. Sunstein about it, he says, well, it was probably covered under dread spoils. But this is very specific.
Who is Fidelis?
Fidelis is a company that offered to pay $1.1 million for dread spoils located on the city side of the island. There were meetings between members of the island board city council, and they couldn't get an agreement, and so it was left to go off by itself. But Fidelis dealt for 6 months, it says, with the board, or with representatives of the board.
With the
We
board
went-
or with the city?
With the board
Because that's
and
the
the,
city's half of the island.
We went to one meeting,
okay, well,
right in the little room over there, Jimmy and I, without any attorney, and I said, why are we even here without our attorney? And that's the only time we didn't say anything. Well, I didn't say anything.
Just so you know, I did go through bankers' boxes and free ring binders that Manager Caruso Naprawa had produced during her time as secretary. I was blown away by her meticulousness and how organized she was.
All the
Certainly,
bills are there.
I would pale in comparison, but there was nothing there that specified anything regarding a company named Fidelis or anything else, and that was long before.
It was, excuse me, it was in the Burlington County Times. The story was in the Burlington County Times and stated, and even Mr. Fidelis stated the fact. After speaking with a few of the board members and city council, that's the way it was worded, and that's where the question came up.
Well,
Did they interview the board members that were at that
They
meeting?
asked questions.
That's all it said in the paper.
They asked questions, and Jim gave a few answers. I told him I don't talk without my attorney present, period.
The
So
city
whatever
had
the
its
newspaper
attorney
says,
present.
you can't
The
take
city
it.
had its attorney there, right?
It was a special guy. It was a little Jewish attorney that literally tore them apart, and that's why the guy never came back. I can't remember the guy's name. Let me tell you, he ripped.
I know who
He
you're
ripped
talking
them
about
people.
because he was here
The
once.
yeah, he was here when they were trying to do that townhouse stuff.
Yeah, his name's in records somewhere because I
This-
made him spell it out.
First off, their
I
attorney that
remember
was
him.
present for them, because they came from out west somewhere, wasn't even licensed to practice in the state of New Jersey. It was a big rigmarole, but only one meeting I went to, and they invited Jim and the vice president, but they said Joe, they didn't want Joe Bate there. I'm gonna tell you just how it is. That's why Jimmy brought him in. Jimmy was the president, Joe was the vice president. The mayor insisted that Joe not come, or the board of island managers could be present. And then Jim called me at the last minute and invited me. I knew nothing about it. He called me, I left cutting grass to go to that meeting. And as soon as I seen Ron wasn't there, I said, why are we here without our attorney? He said, I didn't think
Yeah, I
we
remember
needed
you
it.
saying that. Basically, it was.
But there was no multiple meetings and 6 months of negotiations with this board.
Negotiations.
Unless Jim and Joe negotiated with him and we didn't know about it, that I can't attest to.
No, Joe had nothing to do with it. The reason I state that fact is because I spoke specifically with Joe after I saw him in the newspaper. And I said, what do you know about this? He says.
No, but they didn't want you ready.
He says, I'm on the board and I don't even know nothing about it.
Well, we reported the meeting to the board, and that should be, if you taped it, should be on your tape.
Well,
If you were taping when Jimmy was the president, you should have a copy of that. And we reported it, and I specifically stated, when the guy asked me what I thought, I said, I don't think anything without my attorney
And if
present.
you look at
Period.
the minutes from that year, I probably have something brief in there, because back then, the board wanted a much more detailed. So there is probably something to that effect in there, because I do kind of recall that.
Well, I can give you Ron's response, which was his recollection of what was discussed several years ago before a lot of us were on the board, is that there was never a clear-cut determination from the DEP or DCA, let alone the city,
Right.
as to who had the right, if any, to sell dredge spoils, which is a fairly complex issue depending on, among other things, on their location, tidelands issues, lease and ownership rights, etc. He said that this is there's very probably absolutely no record of billing for any activity concerning the dredging, as it was part of the general meetings and would have been billed as such. So whatever was said, other than that meeting, was more than public, and it was at open meetings. So
Mike, he probably did research Fidelis. What he didn't research, what he probably researched was who has the right to the spoils. But we may not have got a bill. I mean, if there's not a bill, there's not a bill, but this board did not negotiate with Fidelis
Well, I know
for
that,
any reason. We went to a meeting that we were invited to by the city of Burlington.
I know that when this came up a few years ago, I went back because I saved all the invoices, all the
Ron's
correspondence,
invoices you're talking about.
everything. Even stuff that he handed me, just random pieces of paper, articles, everything went into the records. Everything got put in a specific place. The invoices have their own place, but I looked through all those invoices, I couldn't find anything that said Fidelis. I even looked through all the articles and things, I couldn't find anything. I couldn't find this letter, I couldn't find anything that anybody was looking for concerning it. And I mean, anybody's welcome to look through those records. Those records are very organized, and if it's there, but if it's not, I never got it.
I'll get you a copy, okay?
Yeah. Well, you have a copy, what do you want?
Yeah, I will.
I mean, I would
definitely
like to
copy
see
of
it.
that. No problem.
But what I'm thinking is, if it did exist, perhaps Jim received it in the mail, just never gave me a copy for the records. Could it, it could be. Maybe he stuck it in the president's box, maybe it's on his desk somewhere. I don't know, I just know
I
it's
do
not
have
in the
that box.
records.
Jim told me he kept a lot of records. When I looked through it, most of the stuff was from Tom Scattergood. But I'm gonna get that whole box.
I know
I'll
sometimes I
give you the
had
entire
to,
box that Jimmy gave me.
I know sometimes I had to request several times for an invoice or something to put into the records, but
Well, Mike,
Okay, I have two quick things. I want to, thank you for all your responses. I appreciate that.
Are you still going? I just wanna let the record stand though, that I did respond to you and I told you what I needed from you and or what I couldn't furnish to you because it didn't exist. And, as far as, I'm concerned, these requests are redundant and you haven't modified them, in specifics. And, it still stands the way it was, when was that, back in March? When did I take over? April? May. Back in May, so June.
Okay.
Thanks. Do you have anything else?
I have two quick things. One, again, I'm urging the board to move the election time to November. This will save the board money. Also, I have, and I'll ask my daughter to bring this up, I have a flyer that I saved from 2004. I was told that this election is nonpartisan. That's not true. And that's one of the things that I had a copy of just to show. And don't need to say.
Well, that's interesting, because that's 10 years ago, and from what I understand,
And it's been
Democrats
political
were
since.
doing push calls for you, or paid to have push calls done for you about 4 years ago, robocalls, so.
Then we both agree that.
I can attest to you, I know that Manager Reinhardt and James and I did not run by the backing of any party. But and I don't know if any, I can't speak for you.
I can
I
just tell
never
you
did.
one time when I ran this committee wanted to back me, and I said, I can't stop you from putting my name on something, but I'm not asking for anybody's backing. They could have put this on there, whether Mary wanted them to or not, or whoever Duncan McClan is. It's just telling the Burlington City Republican Municipal Committee urges you to vote in the Board of Manager's election. When voting, please cast your ballots for Mary Sunstein, McClain. But I got a robocall from the Democratic Party saying this is the Democratic Party, vote for Mike and Jamie
Well, the
Zela.
funny thing about this is Murray's not even a Republican. He's a Democrat.
Yeah.
It don't matter.
So
Maybe
I
this,
didn't know that.
I don't even ask people what they are.
Oh, years ago,
But
Well, they put that on my door by mistake. And it was held over here at the Burlington
I
Diamond.
know I got a robocall.
no, Mike, it probably
telling me
wasn't
to
a
go
mistake.
to
They
you.
probably did it deliberately.
The point is that the election is political. It's been political since time immemorial. And the parties do back people. And I've been a Democrat for 40-some years. Yes, I expect Democrat people to support somebody that's been in the party that long. And if I were a Republican, I would expect it to stay. I have one other quick question, and thank you. I've spent a lot of your time, and I do appreciate you responding to me. On this last that ever coming up in public session to vote on expenditure money. Was this done, or was this,
Back when we were applying for it.
No, no,
we're
just
talking about
now.
Now to reinstate it.
I sent out an email to everyone regarding the issue, and since time is of the essence, I explained the cost to everyone. I got no response as to any problems with the cost. I think Manager Sunstein paid it out of his pocket. If you'd like, we can certainly have a vote tonight to reimburse Mr. Sunstein for the $400.
I think, excuse me, I think you did get a hissy fit from me.
I think I got a hissy fit from you
Only
because it
because I had
would
something
be
lined up to collect.
jeopardizing our.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Right, but not about the expenditure. I mean, we all know that the 501c3 is certainly a tremendous fundraising tool or useful to us to be able to raise money. And to me, it's a no-brainer. But if you would like, Mike, I'm sure we can put that for a vote if somebody wants to make a motion on new business.
For the record also, that's what's holding up getting from Home Depot any signs for posting the island.
Well,
How much do those signs cost?
They're gonna give them to us for free if we have a
That's all that matters.
501c3.
Free is the best.
Otherwise, they're gonna cost us $1 a piece, and if you want 200 of them, it's not, I can't see going that way, when they'll say, well, we'll gladly give it to you, but we need a letterhead and we need a tax write-off number. That was the whole point of the whole thing. And like I said, I talked with Dave Ballard about acquiring a golf cart for public service that's a pickup to be used on the island, and he and public service agreed that they'd gladly donate it to us. When I went back to Scott or to the board about it, then I found out that the 501 wasn't in effect.
Well, they still have that 30 days from now. In other words, can we stall them on that public service?
yeah, I talked to Mr. Ballard, who's very congenial and more than willing to work with us, and he believed that we had enough time. That's why we're stepping up.
But to answer Mike's question, 400 was already paid to the IRS. The other 400, Mary's gonna try and negotiate.
And
With the,
we did, I'm sorry, you know, but we did, I called around, Manager Sunstein called around, and most people wanted up to $2,000. This guy's only charging us $400. And I was really impressed, and he's also a former policy in LSCA, private practices.
The only question I had was what did we ever pay just to send it in originally?
It was,
Nothing?
no,
Oh,
it was
no,
like
no.
900, I
It was
think.
a lot of money.
It was around 900 bucks.
I think one of the biggest problems with it was, they never really told us what we had to do. When they approved us for the status, they sent like this little pamphlet that had absolutely no information.
It was
And I
about-
think Jim was president at the time,
It was
and
about 5 pages.
it wasn't even 5 pages.
Just a little.
It was like a trifold,
Yeah.
and there was almost nothing,
Well,
there was nothing in there that I can recall describing what we needed to do. It was basically about,
well, may I
what you could
recommend
ask for.
that the treasurer or whoever is responsible for filing any of that stuff finds out exactly what needs to be done.
Yeah, well, we know now. Unfortunately, now we know what has to be done. The worst part of it is, we really didn't collect anything for those 3 years. So filing was gonna be, what was it? There was a number limit on it.
Yeah, but
Now,
You got it.
Okay, it was $10,000 because at
So-
the end of April, I sat down with Murray Sunstein in his office. We redone the paperwork with the IRS, but unknowns to us, okay, we'd already lost, okay, the status.
Well, they
That's
But
why
by the
you-
time the Maryland got to us was August.
that's when you emailed me and said you can't find us anywhere under our
Yeah.
name, under our
Even,
number.
even after that,
This is the
because we
reason.
lost the status prior to April and it takes X amount of time for the system to
That's why I say
kick
it's over,
in.
it's over 2 years.
Well,
Because our fiscal board year is April to April.
Yeah, April to the end of March, right? April 1st to March 31st.
all right, well, we'll have it back and, God willing, no boards, henceforth will.
And my last thing, real quick, Lauren is now a citizen of Gainesville, Florida, which makes her ineligible to hold a position on the board since she's not a Burlington City resident. Thank you.
I just got one question. Everybody, I see it every year. Move the election to November, it'll save us money. Are you telling me that the county advertises that and there'll be no cost to the board if we're involved in that? Because everybody says it, but nobody's proved it. Okay, talk is cheap. You can chatter and post and do all you want.
Well, why don't we look into that?
Exactly. That's what I'm talking about.
Well-
If it'll actually save money or if everybody's just talking
Well, we have an
when they don't
agreement.
listen.
The other
I
question is
posted
the
that
charter.
a couple of months ago, that if the majority of the board was interested in it, we would take the time to research it. If we weren't interested in it, there was no point in research of whether it would save us money, and no one seemed to be interested except for maybe 2 people. That's why it was never researched. Because we had a discussion and
I remember coming out this way. Scott didn't want to have nothing to do with that with the end of it.
Well,
He said it's too political and we don't want to get involved in it. That was the end of the discussion. And I don't think that's fair to everybody else on the board.
all right.
It's going to be political wherever you put it. And here's my point of all of it. If it's going to save us money, put it where it'll save us money. I don't care about the politics. Maybe you do. I don't. Put it where it's going to save us money because we don't have any. We don't have any revenue coming in. Let's solve this problem one way or the other. If it's going to save us money, let's move it. If it ain't going to save us money, I'll leave it where it is. Who cares? That's just my thought. Like I say, I don't care otherwise, except if it's going to save us money. We don't have an income.
The only objection I would have is if the names are listed anywhere near the 2 columns. Because I can tell you, well, let me give you a little story. John Alexander, big time Democrat right here in Burlington City, ran for the school board in Edgewater Park. Okay, he was on the Republican column. They don't even bother looking. They went right down and he didn't get elected.
I don't think they.
And he was gonna sue Edgewater Park.
I don't think they put it on there that way for the Board of Island Managers. I think it's an independent thing down somewhere down at one of these spots.
But the point he's
Well, there was a
making
board
is
of-
you're
there was a
either
board of
on the left
education
or you're on the
election.
right. Even with Board of Ed, it's down the bottom, but you got some under the Democratic column, some under the Republican, even
people-
though it's not party affiliated.
I'm an independent. I don't care.
Yeah, but you don't care.
You people obviously have a problem.
No,
with it.
not.
I don't have a
What
problem.
do you
You
mean?
do.
What do you mean, you people? What the hell
Yeah,
kind of
what
statement
is
is
that
you
supposed to
people?
You two right here are arguing the point.
I'm not arguing any point. What
I'm
I'm
just
telling
saying,
you
trying to
is,
save a buck.
in Burlington City, 99% of the voters are blind. They feel, oh, I'm on the left. Bing, bing, bing. You can put Charlie Manson there and he'll get elected.
All right, well, let's just leave it at that then.
That's what I'm talking about.
If you want to make a motion later, Don, you're more than free.
If it's separate of the ballot and it's not in the right or left column, I don't have a problem with it. Mike, see, Don, you ain't been involved in it long enough to know here, as a Republican, you're dead meat. In any general election, you will not get elected if you were God and you have an R next to your name. The Democratic Party has ran this town for over 30 years in Burlington. You see the shape of the town.
All right.
That's what I'm gonna tell you.
Thank you.
And I know for a fact, because I've been a businessman here all that years.
Thank you.
Well, I was for 35 years myself.
Okay, so then you should know
My
that.
business was perfectly fine in this town.
Yeah.
Gentlemen.
Okay.
Thank you, Mike. I understood you.
Okay, thank you.
You had a hospital stay. I hope you're doing better.
Thank you, yeah, blood sugar went down for different,
Okay.
down to below 65.
Okay, old business.
Anybody else on public
Oh,
session?
I'm sorry.
I don't
Is
know.
anyone else?
Okay. Sorry.
We do need someone to show us where it'll save us money.
Well,
Show
it
me.
seems like people like to talk about
Somebody
it.
says the county will pay for all the advertising, it won't cost you a dime, then maybe it's time to think about it. And how would ballot be set up? I have no problem with it.
Well, the other thing is it's legislated and by charter, and I don't know if you can do it
Well,
without.
we can move, but, you know.
The last time we asked for an attorney's opinion, the the attorney didn't know what he was talking about. I don't know. I didn't go to law school, I'm not gonna give you a legal opinion on that.
Thank God.
You're out of luck if you're asking me for a.
No, that's what I should have went on to be pretty good.
Yeah, you would have been.
Okay, I have a question.
Can I close the public portion?
Is there any other member of the public that
Any
wants to
other,
speak?
I did ask, I'll ask again, if there's any other member of the public. Having closed, public portion is now, old business, Mr. James, you have a question?
With the election, with the poll workers, that fee that they receive, is that for an entire day or a snippet of it
No,
Time
that's
frame.
for that whole day.
for that whole day?
They get $75 from the time the poll's open to the time the poll's, that's what they get.
Okay.
That's what we pay. The county pays more in a general election.
Yeah, they pay, I think, like $200 a day.
And that's what I'm saying, is the county gonna say, oh, well, the board, you're having your election with ours, you don't have to pay 1 penny towards this? Or are they gonna charge us, and it may cost just as much, if not more? I don't know that.
I would maybe, I mean,
Yeah,
I would say
I have,
maybe
I'll
call
want to
the
do
city
something here to
and
do
see-
business.
I would see, if they,
Again, let's, if we're gonna be looking into this stuff, we're gonna need a motion in a second, but let's go on to old business and we can get back. Okay? Don, in his effusive way, wanted to discuss, the big plan. Don, you wanna talk to us a little bit, and if the board wishes and someone makes a motion or seconds it, we can post it in the next meeting.
Well, the only thing I had to say about the plan that I put together was, this is something that me and Hal, I've been working on it for about 10 years, and then, well, actually a little less than that. And then when me and Hal got involved working on the island 7 years ago, I'm going to say, we started bouncing, I kind of like presented the idea to him when we got involved, because we actually started on the island like the same day. He shared the kayak that I had, the spare one and everything like that, so we used to bounce off the wall over there, ideas back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, what we thought would be good for the city, for the board, for the island, for the children, for the environment, all that kind of stuff. And over the years, we kept revising the plan, revising the plan, and revising the plan. And that's how that plan got to be. Originally, it was summarized as just 1 page, and that's why it was a quick page. The only reason I had that was easy to hand out as a 1 page. I'm going to say probably about 4 years ago when a woman came to me, she kind of like scratched her head and didn't know what to do, one of those kind of things. So I said to her, instead of you beating yourself up, a lot of the ideas that I have here on paper is already ideas that you already said that you think you might like to do. So I presented it to her, and she says, well, I think this is a great idea. You have virtually all the ideas of the historical value of the property over there, and Indian village and all that stuff, but it was all basically one of those kind of things that was to be in phases. In other words, you've got a phase 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And what that does is, it's not a thing that's going to be done, it's not etched in stone, it's something that's going to be done over maybe 10 or 15 or 20 year period. If you get the investors or you don't get the investors or whatever, So that's why it's laid out basically the way it is. The only reason it's in such a 19-page portfolio as you see it is because I gave a history of the city, a history of the McNeil Mansion, and history of Burlington Island, and basically put all the pieces together with maps showing what the property looks like and all that kind of stuff and everything. And there's some stuff in there, obviously, that probably doesn't mean anything today. But there are things in there that I think are for the educational purposes of what we've always talked about. We're fortunate enough that with Burlington Island, 50% of the island is in the Green Acres Commission. So theoretically, we're under the rules and regulations of what the Green Acres says, this is what you're allowed to do, but you can't do anything else. As for the city, for the board side, we're fortunate enough on that side too, because our charter basically states that you got education, recreation, and for conservation. Well, that's about the same thing Green Acres is, except we're allowed to generate a basic revenue to sustain the island. That's one thing that's good. I don't think we're going to get anything out of the Green Acres because they just give us a tax break to the city, which we never see that. But the only thing I was saying was, I don't see a plan across the table yet from anybody on this board, and I would appreciate it if you could, if somebody or the group could put something together. And the plan that Hal and I have put together for years, if it needs to be changed or modified or whatever, it can be done. But I can tell you right now, and I can put it in writing, and I can prove the fact, that is not Warwood's plan, because I've heard that more than once, and if I hear it again, then we're gonna have another hissy fit. But I would appreciate it if the people on the board either, if they wanna vote for that plan to be, maybe the idea of where the board would like to go in the future, that would be wonderful. If you don't want to, that's fine with me too. Thank you.
We sat down a lot of time over there on the aisle looking at everything, what everybody does, what everybody comes and does onto that island, the camping, the fishing, and so forth. This town's getting ready to burst open with some new business opportunities. And please sit down and go through there. There's only one major idea from Karen Woolman. That was the Time Bridge. So it's not all Karen Robbins. This board needs a direction. It's floundering. And I cannot pull enough nickel-dime fundraisers in to keep afloat.
Well, then my question would be, if we don't have enough nickel and dime fundraisers to keep the board afloat, where are we gonna get the money to execute this plan?
Once we
can't pay
we
for
cannot,
this.
actually, we cannot execute a plan, we cannot finance it, but we have something. Hey, is there anybody out there that's willing to back this?
Well, liking it is one thing, telling a developer this is what you have to do and spend your money, that's another. I don't know that we could even ask a developer that.
Okay, let me go throw it on the opposite side of the fence.
I mean, if they're spending their dime, they should be able to do what they want as long as
Okay.
it's in
How about
the
coming
parameters
up
of
with
the
a
charter.
plan? How about coming up with an idea to seek out developers or investors for them to come in and do something?
Well, that's what we did with the
That's what we did
With
with
the
the
RFP,
RFP.
but it failed 2 years ago and nobody has done anything since.
It failed from the beginning, and the reason is.
She had no back, I can't see any backers.
There's so many restrictions that
Wait, why do you?
a company with the money doesn't want to come in because there's so much red tape.
What is this board going to do for an income?
Let me just jump off track for 1 second, because when you said that, you gave me the thing. Don, that article in the paper, it's about a floating bridge that is supported by pontoons. That's in today's paper. That's why he said bridge, that triggered. It's maybe in Smithville or something. It's a floating bridge.
Yeah,
That's done with pontoons.
They have it over in Smithville, that's what the guy was jogging.
That was in today's paper, that's what I was thinking. But, Al, I remember a group from this board, including Ron, went up. We were supposed to have a roundtable meeting with officials from the state of New Jersey. Herman was still the mayor. We went up there, we thought we were gonna have a nice little roundtable discussion. We walked into an ambush. Every department head from the state of New Jersey was in that room. And it was like a bodybuilding competition where they all take their shirts off and shave their hair and spray the oil all over and start going like this. Everybody told us why we could never develop the island. Any big company that has the money already knows that. That's why only Karen came around. Because all these big people that have the ability to develop that, they go like this.
That was then, this is now. The reason I state that fact is, I could point out three corporations right now that are willing to do it. I have letters that state the fact. Once the board gets their crap together and agrees with the city, we'll gladly invest.
Bring the letters, show it to us, and we'll entertain it. At least I will. I won't speak for anybody else. Everybody talks about all this stuff they have. Put that stuff in front of me so I can read it and comprehend it and say, hey, they said them back. Not just all the chitter chatter that goes on Facebook. Proof.
If you have nothing to
Proof.
if you have nothing to show an investor a dream or a goal of where you would like to go, it's like going to the Small Business Administration. The first thing they're going to say, well, what do you want? Well, I want $1 million. Well, what do you want it for? I don't know. Well, how are you gonna take it back? I don't know. Well, why'd you come here? If you don't have a plan in your hand and say, look, this is what we would like to do. We were looking for investors. Why do you think you went to Karen Robbins? This board, the city's the same way. The city is looking for some sucker on the outside to do it instead of them doing it themselves and taking all the money for themselves. I don't understand. You guys own the island and the city owns the
No,
island.
no, the citizens of the city of Burlington own that island. We're caretakers.
The city owns the island.
The citizens of the city of Burlington own the deed to that island. Every citizen has a piece of that island. We manage it. We don't own anything. We manage that
We
island.
don't manage nothing. We're not here allowed to own it.
We manage the island.
Not being how.
This already cost us $5,000 or more when the city tried to make us prove we had title to the island, and the city spent money and we spent money. And guess what? We don't know any more now than they did then, but in the charter, it says that the citizens of the city of Burlington hold title to that island.
So
That's everybody's. If you wanna sell that island, you gotta put it on a referendum, and the voters gotta approve
Yeah,
it.
last time that was done,
If
1935. it was by
this
turn.
board has a project that's gonna be done, it's gonna have to go on the ballot and be approved by the voters.
We have a motion.
I'll make a motion to, discussion and review of Don's big plan, that you'll have to bring the thing back that I gave you back. Remember I gave you my copy back, so I'll need that again to see. But I'll make that
As
motion.
far as
Don,
I'm
it's his.
concerned,
Let's wait, that there's a motion, somebody seconds it. or-
Second.
Okay,
On-
motion.
on the
It's
question.
Now, Mary can go whatever direction she wants.
well, for me, it has never been a case of whether or not I like the idea of the plan. It's always been about money. We have no money.
Yes, I understand that, but nobody is going out to say, we like this, we don't like this about the plan. Let's put it out there in an RFP, see if somebody bites. You can hand it to Toll
We
Brothers.
don't have the money for another RFP.
How much?
Thousands. How
Let's
much
see that.
We issued.
I'm challenging you to bring that up in record, because I will pay for it personally.
The last RFP cost $5,000.
I will come up with the money.
That was the second one, plus the first one
Be
probably
civil.
cost about the same.
Okay, here's a question. What are you gonna do for paying the bills? Because this is getting absurd with,
Let's stay on the question, all right?
This is why nothing ever gets done. We
Well,
can't even talk as
Right,
adults.
so.
This is ridiculous.
Hal, please sit down, because we're making headway here.
We're not making headway. Who are you kidding?
No, we
No,
are.
we're not.
Our-
We're
I
not.
have
We're
a
doing the
motion.
same thing we do every
I have a
month, which is
motion and a
bicker over
second.
the same stupid stuff. Because
I'm
one
gonna-
person has
I'm
one
seeing
opinion
on
and
the
one
other
person
weekend.
has another, and neither one of them have enough respect for each other's opinions. It's the same problem every meeting.
Manager James, would you like,
I'm not
take
gonna
a
sit
smoke
here
break?
and
You wanna
baby
have a
anybody.
5-minute break?
Yeah.
All right, is that a motion?
yeah.
Do we have a second?
I'll say.
All right,
I'll
thanks.
smoke.
Board meeting,
Is that a motion and a second?
we have a motion for you. Oh, we have a motion on the floor. Okay, we're still on the question. Mary, did you finish your question? Okay. I'll just go down the line. Any discussion, please say it now.
We need to repeat this motion.
Review Don's big plan.
Okay. Motion on the floor, Hal second. On the question, I would like, that in that review and upriver end of the lake, to which, I can discuss my objections to that.
When you say upriver, you mean north or south?
Well, actually, north is toward, Bristol. So it's I call it the upriver end of the
So
lake.
you're talking the south end.
It's really
Which is
east,
closer.
actually, it's more east, in that corner. So, what I would like is that we could go through the plan and look at it and, review it for its merits and or the things that we don't like about it. And, vote on it piecemeal, but as a board, to come up with a consensus on how we can do this.
And in all fairness, I had put this on the agenda months ago when I was still the president, and unfortunately Don was sick that night, so it got postponed because I didn't think it was fair to discuss what he's doing. While he's part of his law firm, then he has to. All right, that's the way I understood what he said.
Well, I can
You
certainly
can call him and find that
find
out.
out. Okay, great. Okay, we have a motion and a second.
Do a roll call.
Roll call, Don.
What are we talking about?
About the motion.
Yes and no vote.
About
Yes.
doing next meeting. Hal?
Yes.
Tony?
Yes.
Nick?
Yes.
Yes. Mary?
Yes.
Okay. Motion succeeds. Unanimous motion, great. Okay, Hal, do you have any updates on school nights?
I received an envelope. I was not privy to the amount, and Murray Sunstein's received it a little too late to put onto the statement. When we get back our status next month, hopefully it'll be only 30 days, Garrity's will do a give back. We can get pick up another couple $100. Yeah, but that's only a Monday or Tuesday night.
It'll probably be more than a couple months at least.
Do we,
Yeah.
Gary?
can someone make a motion to have Hal talk to Garrity's and,
So moved.
second?
I'll second. But he has to wait until we get our.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
can talk to him and say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have another piece of old business.
We still got a motion.
Okay, sorry.
It was made second, we got to vote on it,
Yep. On the question? All in favor?
right? Aye. So how's it going to talk to Gary about his money?
Okay, great.
Okay, getting back on with old business again, sorry. Getting some contact back from different Lumber growers, they are not even interested in our seeds. And so, the Bologna trees, they're not even in.
Yeah, they're really broad.
Well, we do have a lot of good stuff over there that could be of interest, and it would be, I mean, we have gearboxes over there that probably weigh 3,000 pounds.
Yeah, they're not really broad.
And they're not going nowhere, but they would be good in the middle of a garden.
Or is wind on?
Some of the
Now we have to build, we keep our batteries charged on our hand tools, power tools, that sort of thing.
Okay, again, on old business, it was going around for a while, it was the Heartbleed exploit. We were hit through our web editor. It took about 45 days to get it straightened out, the SSL certificate issue, through Website Tonight and GoDaddy. I did make a donation. It's going to reflect next month to pay for the website editor. To keep that going, because it expired last month.
our website is over.
The website's up, it's running, but I cannot edit it until Murray makes,
How much?
it was $110 and it was, donation was made by me to keep it going, so I can finish a few things for another year.
So you paid for it?
Yeah.
What's that? Are you want reimbursement?
No. Our site is hosted through GoDaddy. There is an editing program that's $110 a year. Website Tonight.
Website.
Tonight, that's what we use in order to edit our website. That is the cheapest I can find on the market.
Would you mind if I checked with my friend first, because he has a lot of programs?
It only goes through, GoDaddy's through them.
Yeah, he might have it, is what I'm saying, and might be able to let him use it.
No, we don't download it. Go, Scott can go log in, Vice President can log in with the password, customer number and edit, once they read the instructions. We don't have to download anything.
So if my friend had the same exact program, you couldn't use that for free, is what you're saying?
We don't need it. We're just buying a license to use that program.
But that's what I'm saying, if he already has a license for the same program and lets you use it, you couldn't use it?
I'll look into it, but it's registered. BurlingtonNJ.org and the other domains, okay, Mr. Stunstein has donated money to keep them up.
No, that I understand.
And it's also that same customer number, right, is through GoDaddy. It's an integrated. We just pay them to use that editor. It's odd, but
Does he do the editing or we do the editing?
we can do the editing. You still have it when I turn it over, password, everything, for the election. Yeah, you sit down, you log everything in, read the instructions.
So what are they charging you $110 for?
It's the user of the website editor.
Oh, so he's not actually an editor. When you say editor, you mean it's a
Yeah,
program.
it's a program.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what she's saying is that she can get you editor software free.
No, there's no downloads. It's like a license.
On a program, and I know he's letting you use it.
Unfortunately, that's the way it is.
And
Thank you.
I have one more thing before you close there, about that small business.
Okay.
On this scoop night thing, I left a check at home for $50 to be donated to the board on scoop night. I don't usually go to scoop night because, it seems like everybody in our family is lactose intolerant.
So much.
So I usually donate to the thing, and I didn't get over there to do it. And then also, so I have $50 that I'll be donating to the board on this for the scoop night. And I got from Scott and from Sarah about a week ago, I got a $20 T-shirt too, which was for a friend of mine. It's a gift, so there'll be another 20 there. So I'm going to be over at the next meeting. I owe the board $70.
And you should have showed up with that 50. I could eat a whole lot of ice cream for $50.
yeah.
I would eat it till I got
That's the nice
sick.
thing about making a direct donation, you're not paying, if you buy a $5 ice cream, that
Yeah, that's
is
true.
50 cents. So I'd rather write a check to the board.
Well, it's good for, well, I think it's
Yeah.
always good for us to promote town. As far as, is that the end of old business?
Yes.
I have something actually.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah.
Murray and I both attended back to school night.
Good. Yeah, I was gonna ask you to talk about
Yeah, I do have some pictures on my phone if anybody wants to take a look after the meeting. I got a few. I went with Nicole, if everybody remembers her. She was at our last meeting. I met up with her and her mom and her mentor, and we looked at all the projects. The projects, for the most part, they were really amazing. The kids had some really cool ideas. I looked for the teachers because I wanted to speak to them about involving us in their next project. I wasn't sure where their classrooms were, so I did not get to see them. But I did speak with Mr. Jackson, who normally works at Local Watts, and he runs the Yak Yak program, which is like the youth advisory committee. I forget the last name of that. But even he was saying he'd like to see, like some kind of connection between the board and the school, and maybe, bringing the kids over there for nature and science projects, and, not just this math project assignment, but other projects as well, and even field trips, so.
It's unfortunate, they never said a word to us, but there was so many kids that had projects to do. I guess they were different projects, like all different kinds.
You either had to figure out the dimensions of the island
Okay,
and
that's-
draw like a hand-to-scale
Okay.
map,
That's because Doug.
or you could do a business plan. But the unfortunate thing is, not knowing anything about the board, they would know about like the business restrictions and things, which not that they would have to, but it would kind of be cool to
no, had we known, we could have put some stuff, we
Yeah,
could have put some stuff
definitely.
together, because like later, I actually found some maps that I had in my shed that Joe made us copies of, the 11x17s, the long ones. You know, it would have helped them kids out, so the school, you know,
Yeah.
I would have thought common sense, they would have contacted us and said, look, we have some projects the kids are gonna do. And gave them contact information, and they could have contacted us to get some kind of.
Well, now that
Help
school
out of it.
is back in session and back to school night and all that, everybody's passed all that, I'm gonna reach out to those teachers because I did get a motion back in July, I think, to do that. I'm gonna reach out to those teachers now that they're back and, say, hey, next time you do this project, can you contact me or someone on the board and please involve us? We'd love to interact with the kids and, it's a shame that we don't have more support from the city. We could be taking these kids over there for field trips. There's so many different projects they could do for school. Science related, history related.
Science is real big.
I know.
That would be
There's
big.
so much they could do without us putting anything on that island. Just having a tour guide and a boat, there's so much we could do with these kids, but the city will never support it, and it's very unfortunate.
Well, I group that wanted to have this rave party on the island, and we established a relationship with the local police, the state police, a lot of work. John Fine was a detective involved in that, and they did patrol it. They did approach these people and tell them, they would have to get permits and other things, and this is how to do it. And when we met with the Administrator Ballard and Frank Caruso, they said that they would like to have an EMT and a motorized boat in case something went wrong. And so I asked John if he or someone else, since he is an EMT, also could volunteer. Maybe we could set something up to start something in relationship with the school. Because Tony, I appreciate that you're working on this, and I'd like to work with you as far as getting these kids out there in the spring, to watch migrating bird species
Well,
and stuff. I mean,
my
that's
whole
really
other
the main
thing
goal here. is
Too, and not to
educate
cut you
children.
off, but this would be a free trip for our school students as well as multiple teachable moments. Like I said, you can pretty much take any school subject and take these kids over there and they would get something out of it. Whether it be science, history, even if they had to write an English paper, their experience to the island, there's not one subject that would not be covered by this
You
island.
got your guides.
And not only that,
They already got the 2 guides.
but if we had that relationship where we could be taking kids over, this is something we could offer to other towns at a low cost, like $5 to $10 a student, and we would have revenue for this board to be able to do larger scale things and get the, is we don't have a boat, we don't have cooperation from the city,
We
and
have a boat.
we still have to eat it. Well, are you gonna be able to
We
fit
have
like
access.
30 kids in it? We
Well,
need a large
We
boat.
do, I did, at one time.
Or two
Manager
smaller
Reinhardt,
ones.
I'll give to you, I did take out, about 35 students, before I was a manager. Can we have a motion?
Is that inside the,
Inside the cage,
fence?
yeah.
That's brand new. And then they never.
Brand new and
Brand new.
Everything turned on, yeah.
I know right what you're talking about.
Yeah.
They spent.
Oh, yeah, do I have a motion, thank you, Manager Ward. We'll need a motion regarding the $400 expenditure and a possible other $400 to the IRS regarding the IRS. You're making that motion? Do we have a second?
If we want to get the 501c3 status back, we gotta do it.
Second.
Any other questions? All in favor?
Aye. motion to close?
Second.